States don't spend that much time talking about trade. We talk about terror, we talk about Afghanistan, we talk about other things. That's what we've spent the last couple of decades of this relationship obsessing about. I think Mr. Trump's decision vis-a-vis these tariffs have forced us to have a comprehensive discussion about trade, and there's a lot of potential that I believe we can unlock as a result of that conversation. As far as water, as far as the Indus Water Treaty, everyone we have met, obviously at the United Nations, but even here in Washington, D.C., we're all unanimous in condemning this decision. Everybody is expressing to various degrees how they don't want this precedent to be set. I'm sure in their conversations with the Indian government and their representatives, this issue will be raised. I don't think that this is a position that the Indian government is going to be able to sustain for very long. It is not the moral high ground, it is the lowest of the low ground to try and maintain this position that you're going to cut off Pakistan's water. I do hope that the international community, above and beyond geopolitics or any kind of partisan politics, will speak in one voice in condemning this decision.
Just much to follow on the Indus Water Treaty. In your meetings with your American counterparts, did you give them a request? Did you request them to help you negotiate with India to help you solve this problem? This is first. And secondly, you did talk about your earlier presentation that India has not been.
So as far as the water issue is concerned, and as far as discussions with the United States is concerned, we haven't asked for mediation on any of our issues. We have asked the United States to talk to India as a friend and convince them that we need to sit down and have a comprehensive dialogue encompassing all our issues. The United States representatives that we have met, be it at the United Nations or here at the State Department, obviously expressed concern about this decision and their desire to see this decision taken back. As far as the damage that Pakistan took, we did not lose a single jet in this conflict. We took down 6 Indian planes, but we had 20 Indian planes in our locked at the night of the initial attack. Because our armed forces showed restraint, they only targeted those planes that emptied their load on Pakistan and hit our civilian infrastructure and our civilians on that first night. As far as the damage as a result of the drones that fell within Pakistani territory, the missiles that were fired in Pakistan, the Pakistani government, the Pakistani armed forces have released a comprehensive report on that with pictures, with information, with everything. I'm happy to ask someone to share that with you.
Thank you. In the current paper, please, to the Energy Minister for the Economy and Trade. Where is there scope for cooperation with Pakistan?
So I think the largest investment in Pakistan in the way of critical minerals is by North America. It is a Canadian company which is invested in Pakistan, and the financial closure is coming with the support of European Exim Banks and the US Exim Banks. It's all in process, but I think if you're thinking about the electrification revolution, you know that there can't be any electrification revolution without any copper. And if you're thinking about going green, then you know that there can't be any green if there are no batteries, and there can't be any batteries if there's no lithium and some bunch of other critical minerals and metals. And Pakistan is very rich. Pakistan is open for business. We have a large number of North American companies that are coming to Pakistan. They're most welcome. And as I mentioned earlier, even as the energy minister previously, we've had some discussions about green hydrogen and green ammonia as well, but obviously that requires a large bunch of subsidy. So those were ongoing conversations, but this conversation about critical minerals and critical metals is real, it's happening. And as I mentioned earlier, the largest investor in Pakistan in the area of mining and critical minerals is North America.
If you could share a little bit more about the tangibles with your meetings with the US officials here, it does seem as though there's a sense of heightened opportunity at this time as opposed to during the Biden era when it felt like Pakistan was somewhat shut out.
As far as the Biden administration is concerned, at the tail end, I was foreign minister of Pakistan, and I certainly didn't feel shut out from the Biden administration. I believe Pakistan made important progress during those days. Obviously, there was a different context. This crisis has afforded another opportunity for us to talk peace, particularly given the role that the United States president has played. We're definitely leaning in on that. As far as Pakistan being on this list, I think given the progress that Pakistan has made by and large combating terror, the cooperation we have in the CT domain with the United States, I mean, if you recall, when the US president made his first speech, the second time around he became president, the joint sessions of Congress, there was one country that he thanked for their cooperation on CT, and it was Pakistan. So I think whatever metric they were using, and FATF, we went through a long, arduous process along with the United States and other countries. Again, when I was foreign minister, this process concluded, and Pakistan went from being on the gray list to on the white list. So I think whatever metric they're using to make these decisions. No conversation on Imran Khan at state or any government level.
I would, if I may, I would simply like to add that I think President Trump is not getting celebrated enough for the role that he's played in establishing peace. I think he should be recognized. I think he's played a critical role. I think what we call the ladder of escalation between two nuclear states is not a ladder. One wrong step, and it won't be a ladder of escalation. It could be an abyss. And I think there was a great intervention that the US president did. And I think he's not getting recognized enough for that. And he should be, both internationally as well as in the United States. He's playing the same role in terms of Russia and Ukraine. He's playing similar role in trying to settle the crisis, the humanitarian crisis, and the war crisis between Israel and Palestine.
Hi, my name is Musla and I'm with Fox News Channel. I just wanted to ask a question about Afghanistan and threats emanating from there. Did that come up in any of your conversations with the US?
Okay, thank you. That's a very good question. I think you've really hit the nail on the head. So far, a lot of the discussions, even a lot of the issues that India brings up and everything, are revolving around the consequences of post-Afghan 1. And all the terrorist groups, whether they're the Taliban, whether they're Al-Qaeda, whether they're LEJ, whether they're LAT, all one way and the other are the sort of baggage from that original crisis. And we're still facing the consequences of that war. The way in which the pullout took place in Afghanistan, the manner in which that weapons are left behind in Afghanistan is certainly posing a problem for us today. And I'm worried that the actual problem is what's going to happen with the baggage that we've left behind from Afghan 2. Today, it's affecting Pakistan. With the number of terrorist attacks in Pakistan today are more than any time in our history. The radical groups within my country have been empowered, been emboldened by what they see as a victory for the similar mindset within Afghanistan and are challenging the writ of the state in Pakistan. They're attacking our citizens, they're attacking our armed forces, they're attacking our policemen, and we're witnessing these terrorist attacks every single day. What's even more concerning is groups that operate in and out of there or sort of benefiting from the vacuum that's been created in Afghanistan post the fall of Kabul are now cooperating across the ideological spectrum. So disparate groups that have no ideological linkages, they don't have the same goal, the same targeted. They've even operated in the past but not cooperated. Now, because of the freer environment they're experiencing, they are coordinating. And we're seeing groups like the BLA in Balochistan coordinating with the TTP, who have no ideological connection amongst themselves. And what I'm worried about is if these groups can coordinate together, then the other groups, such as Daesh, such as ETIM, that are also operating in and out of there, they also might start cooperating together. And while today Pakistan is facing the brunt of this, tomorrow someone else will, which is why we're even more concerned that India is politicizing the issue of terrorism for their own, whatever the purpose is. Because when you politicize the issue of terrorism, it undermines the actual fight against terrorists. I think we need more cooperation, regional, international, on what are we going to do now that post-Kabul to deal with the remnants, with the terrorism that's left over. As far as the weapons are concerned, you'll be astonished to hear. Sometimes when we're fighting these terrorist groups within Pakistani territory, the weapons that they have procured through the black market that were left behind in Afghanistan are more advanced than the policemen that they're fighting against. They have night vision capability. I just learned this today, that they have night vision capability that's like fourth generation night vision capability that the Americans had in Afghanistan, that they didn't even sell to Israel. It was that advanced, this technology. And now this technology has found itself in the hands of extremists. So Pakistan is facing the blowback of that today. What I'm really concerned about is, heaven forbid in the future, somebody in and out of Afghanistan crosses into Pakistan or doesn't even cross into Pakistan, but goes on to conduct terrorist attacks in a third country, which is why we're calling for dialogue, comprehensive dialogue that includes terrorism, so we can cooperate in the region, but also seeking to cooperate internationally. We have the counter-terrorism dialogue coming up between Pakistan and the United States, and I think it would be very beneficial in the context of your question.
Add something. One major U.S. newspaper traced the weapons used in 12 March train hijacking and terrorism. Those weapons used by terrorists were captured by Pakistan's forces. And the US newspaper traced these weapons back to their American manufacturer. And so the weapons that the United States left in Afghanistan are very clearly being used to perpetrate terror in Pakistan.
Sir.
John Hassan for the Turkish Criminal Agency. You spoke about the fake news during this escalation, and one of the stories that get attention was the Turkish military support in Pakistan, and claims that Turkish planes brought ammunition or some weaponry to Pakistan. So we know there is a cooperation between Pakistan and Turkey in the defense industry and defense field. What can you tell us about the Turkish role during this 5 days of escalation?
First, we're obviously very grateful for our relationship with the people of Turkey, the government of Turkey. As far as our defense procurement is concerned, we procured a lot of our defense equipment also from Turkey. I don't know if I'm allowed to go into specifics, but I can say that we procured equipment from Turkey, and we used that equipment during the conflict. I think this was the first conflict where the opposing side didn't only take issue with Pakistan, but also took issue with anybody who made our planes, or anybody who made our drones, or anybody who made our who facilitated us in that sense. And I think that's a bit strange. There was a lot of disinformation that emanated out of this, but we're incredibly grateful for the role that the Turkish government, the Turkish leadership, the moral support that the Turkish leadership and the Turkish people gave us during this difficult time.
Was there a Turkish effort during the escalation as well?
Absolutely. There was many friendly countries reached out not only to us, also to India, to try and ensure that the issues didn't escalate and we could work towards a ceasefire.
Yes, I have an argument. One thing the Indian delegation has been telling the media here is that they're not interested in any talks with Pakistan because the Pakistani civilian leadership is not really holding any real power, and it's the military that.
Thank you. First of all, that's not what they're saying. They're saying no to everything. When the terrorist attack first took place, the Pakistani government, the Pakistani Prime Minister said, let there be an international impartial investigation into the terrorist attack. They said no. Donald Trump says, let there be mediation between India and Pakistan, they say no. We say let there be dialogue between Pakistan and India. They say no. They haven't said whether the dialogue, they haven't pointed out to us that if the dialogue is for civilians or military, they've just said no across the board to dialogue with Pakistan. The military leadership and the political leadership are all on the same page within the Pakistani context. We're united against terrorism, and we believe it is in the interest of our region to establish peace with India. It is India who's been running away from calls for an investigation, and it's been India who's been running away from efforts for dialogue. I believe that is perhaps the lamest excuse for not having a dialogue right now. If they'd like to talk to our generals, I can arrange it. If they'd like to talk to our politicians, I can arrange it. That shouldn't be a problem.
It's quite ironic because the only communication that is taking place is with the army. Isn't it ironic? What a question. Think about it. The only communication that is taking place right now is between DGMOs. So military is talking to military, and here they come to Washington, D.C. and say, we are not going to talk to you because we don't want to talk to the military, my friends. Military is the only agent that you're talking to.
But only in the context of the ceasefire. Above and beyond the ceasefire,
There's no communication.
No communication either with the military or with the civilians. But on the ceasefire front or the de-escalation front, the point of contact was DGM.
Indian delegation in Washington. They kept the narrative of Pakistan.
I mean, I just think that the Indian delegation is getting increasingly desperate. If that's a narrative that they'd like to pitch, so be it. But that was not the basis of this conflict. Supposedly the basis of this conflict was terrorism. Terrorism that took place in Kashmir. They've cut off our water supply. All of these things have nothing to do with China. They might think that, I think that this sort of image that they've been trying to, this image about themselves that they've been pitching here in the United States, that we're going to be the net security provider, that subsidize our economy, subsidize our military-industrial complex for some future war within the region, has actually been exposed and backfired during this conflict. That a country that's supposed to be the net security provider for the region could not provide net security to their own people, could not provide net security to the occupied people in Kashmir, could not provide net security to their airplanes. So I believe the true path forward is for India and Pakistan to engage in a dialogue, to establish peace. Whatever excuse you want to make, sometimes it's this civil military excuse, sometimes it's this geopolitical excuse, sometimes it's this, oh, all Muslims are terrorist excuse, so we're not going to talk to Pakistan. It's getting, I mean, you can't be two nuclear armed neighbors with a conflict threshold so low and absolutely no dispute resolution mechanism. They don't accept the United Nations, they don't accept international law, they don't accept United Nations Security Council resolutions, they don't want mediation from the United States, and they don't want to talk directly with Pakistan. So would it make rational sense to any country anywhere that to have no dispute mechanism, no way to resolve your dispute other than to go immediately to war? I think that entire proposition makes India less secure, makes Pakistan less secure, makes the whole region less secure, and it's in all our interests to convince India to undo the decision that doesn't serve their purposes and come to the table and talk peace.
May I add one thing? So this Chinese question is very interesting. I feel that it's quite. I mean, it's interesting because the second largest importer of Russian crude is India. What does that make India? And the shield that they have put, that they call S-400, is a Russian shield. It's Russian equipment. What does that make India? And the drones that they used were Israeli. So what does that make India? And the planes that they flew were French. So what does that make India? Isn't it crazy We use some equipment because our access to arms is limited. We'd like to diversify our armament, our arsenal. We reach out to the world to diversify our arsenal. And if we don't get anything from anywhere, we get the best equipment that we can. But no one says that this is a Russian bloc because of S-400 or because of the import of troops. No one says it's the Israeli bloc. No one says it's the French bloc. Look, this is between India and Pakistan. We have equipment that we buy from all over the world. That doesn't define any bloc.
Good evening, to Mr. Bhutto, a question you mentioned that you had just learned today about the night vision goggles.
No, I knew about the night vision goggles. I knew that night vision was a threat to us, and I didn't understand how they had this visibility. What I just learned today, that this technology was so advanced and so guarded by the United States that they didn't even sell these fourth generation night vision equipment to their ally Israel, but they left it behind in Afghanistan, and it's now being deployed by terrorists.
Thank you. I was going to ask you, who told you that? And how did you learn that? Are you sharing that? Do you consider this a threat now, based on...
The night vision was always a threat. The weaponry left behind in Afghanistan was always a threat. It's all old news. The only new news for me, I learned from my ambassador while we were discussing this today, that equipment, the specific night vision equipment, was so advanced, this fourth generation night vision equipment was so advanced that America didn't even share it with their closest allies. It was only in their own army's use. They left it behind in Afghanistan, and as a result, it is now in the hands of the Taliban. I don't know who else they're selling it to, where else it would have reached. And that's one example. There's obviously lots of other weaponry and other things that we now have to face in the battlefield. Maybe the ambassador can share more details.
Well, Mr. Anwar from Dawn News. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as the Indus Water Treaty is concerned, I would say, yeah, absolutely. Sort of the people who were the most well-versed on this topic were at the United Nations, but everybody was concerned about the weaponization of water and the precedent that this would set. As far as what Pakistan will do, at the moment, just the threat to cut off our water is a violation of the United Nations Charter. Pakistan has already announced if India was to act on this threat, this would be an act of war. It's not something that I say because I want to say it. This is not something that Pakistan relishes. We're not trying to be jingoistic. Existential threat for us. If India goes on to implement this threat, we will be forced to fight a war, potentially the first nuclear war over water.
Thank you, Olivia Ronda, Breitbart News. India has reportedly declined that Trump brokered any sort of ceasefire or deal, while Russia, Vladimir Putin's top aide, has actually acknowledged that Trump did play a major role in that deal. Do you have a reaction to that, or a reason why India would deny that Trump played a role?
It's just getting embarrassing at this point. The entire world saw the events play out. We know the Secretary of State made phone calls to our side, made phone calls to their side. They made promises to both sides. The entire world's intelligence community knows, the media knows, everybody else in the room were part of that conversation. We're all saying the same thing, even the Indian government's initial reaction. If you go back to the first night when they also from their side, after Trump's announcement and after Pakistan's announcement, announced, I think it was at the foreign secretary level, their ceasefire. Even in that context, they said that this is a ceasefire. It's only after that they've started to play back that, oh, this is not a ceasefire, it's a pause. Oh, the Americans had nothing to do with this. I don't know why they want to rob President Trump in the United States of this victory, the role that they play. As the senator said, I believe that the United States should be celebrated. Look, all of us across the world are guilty of criticizing the United States foreign policy when we believe something is is worth criticizing. But in this context, they've done a good thing. Look, the President of the United States and the Secretary of State of the United States serve the people of the United States, not the people of India or the people of Pakistan. But for 5 days, they were up all night trying to resolve this crisis. The least you could do is a common decency, is to appreciate and acknowledge what they've done. What I'm more concerned about is that because the Indian government is worried that they're the first government that is lost in armed conflict with Pakistan. They're worried about the political blowback domestically. So in their attempts to sort of run away from just the commitment about this ceasefire, they will try to sabotage President Trump's broader vision for peace in the region, as articulated by the Secretary of State, that there would be a dialogue in a neutral territory to discuss all friction points. So our effort is to continue to engage all partners, to convince India that whatever you call it whatever you like, but let's start the peace process. Yeah, that's fine.
If I may, got a couple of with the economists. I want to ask you, as America changes its foreign policy towards an America First direction.
So, to start with, I would say the suggestion that this is a change in policy to think America first. I think all governments have a responsibility to think about the people who elected them first. And perhaps President Trump is more honest about it, but every government that has ever existed in the United States has always thought America first, and every government across the world's primary responsibility is to their people. Having said that, there is a lot that the United States and Pakistan can do together. There's a lot of potential that we have not explored, either because we've been too busy talking about terrorism or the conversation has moved on and people are paying attention. Within that context, there's the mineral component that our senator mentioned. Pakistan is going into crypto and tech in a big way. I believe that there's work we can do together in the agriculture sector to help address the food insecurity issues in the world, with cooperation in modern technology and other things that we could get from the United States. So there's many domains in which, particularly on the economic front, we can explore more potential between one another. Saying America first, I believe that every government thinks about their country first and makes decisions in light of that.
Question for Minister Manik. During the heat wave last month in May, schools were shut and students had to be forced to stay at home.
It's enormous. I can throw a number at you in terms of 478 billion or 903 billion. But suffice to say, it's enormous and not something that Pakistan can sustain. It's very clear if you look at the heat map, you would not find Pakistan in the way of its carbon footprint because we have none. We have none. This year, our commitment for carbon emissions was about 1,000 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, and we emitted 600 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. So we were 40% lower than the commitments that we made, which means the carbon dioxide burden that the world allowed us, we beat it by 40%. And still we are the third or the first or the second most vulnerable country in the world. But our strategy is changing. Our strategy, rather than just talking about vulnerability, is to talk about the green clusters. We already had a Shark Tank kind of a review, a little theater before coming here. So we are inviting all of our starry-eyed young men and women who are coming out of universities and colleges, from the US universities, with new green ideas, new climate ideas, sustainable ideas, commercially viable ideas. We're going to put them together, and in 1 year, we would have the first footprint for our green cluster, which would be exportable to the rest of the world. Our demand function, because of what you're saying, the damages, and because of what it can do to the people of Pakistan, is so enormous. The demand function is so taxing that we have a great opportunity of building up a new green cluster, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan is committed to it. He's given me this charge, and within a year we'll have the formations of these new businesses which are completely green and completely resilient and completely adaptation.
Assalamu everybody. My name is Brady. I'm from the 70s, Border Managers Youth Bank. I have a question of Mr. Rahul, His Excellency. If you can comment about only the Chinese version of the Kangaroo. I don't know.
I didn't say Chinese version, that would be an improvement.
People version. Don't you think that can impact our relationship with China?
No, I don't. Our relationship with China, I don't know whether you've heard, but it's higher than the Himalayas, deeper than the oceans, and sweeter than honey. I don't think that they would be offended by a joke. Secondly, Temu is a company that is doing incredibly well. Doesn't take away from the fact that it sells products cheaper than other products. Anyway, the merits and demerits of that, I said that in response to a question that was asked to me. It's not sort of something that I planned on saying at the time. At the moment, Pakistan is confident in its non-nuclear, sort of the non-nuclear arsenal things that we have that allowed us to maintain a dominance during this conflict, that not only shot down 6 Indian planes, but forced the Indian Air Force to either down or move their planes away from our border. We're confident that it'll take a while to even for India to match the parity on this front at this stage.
Yes, that is. Then we have the 2 ladies here, and I suppose these are the last ones.
From what?
From Pilati.
Okay.
The question is there's these sharp rhetoric from the Indian side, from the Indian side, from the leadership.
As far as the comments that the Indian leadership are making, I've quoted some of it earlier, I'm not going to repeat it now, but they certainly don't sound like the messages of a man of peace. They are threatening, they are escalatory. However, I'm not worried about the potential conflict as a result of the rhetoric. I'm worried about potential conflict because they've lowered the threshold for such a conflict to such a low bar that can be sparked at any time. If you don't need any proof, you don't need any evidence, and if any bomb blast or any shooting means you go to war, then that can happen at the drop of a hat. What do you, sorry?
So 2 days ago, you suggested that ISI and Goa should work together to combat terrorism and illusion. So far, of course, India has not responded, but what kind of response are you expecting?
I believe that Pakistan and India are going to have to work together to combat terrorism. I believe that as part of our comprehensive dialogue, one of the components will have to be how we conduct that cooperation. I believe a key part of any counterterrorism strategy for any country is intelligence sharing. Without intelligence sharing, you can't combat terrorism. I am confident that there are terrorist attacks that have been thwarted in the United States, that have been thwarted in London, that have been thwarted in Paris, that have been thwarted all over the world as a result of intelligence sharing between Pakistan and other countries and these capitals. So I believe that if we are to come up under our comprehensive dialogue mechanisms with aspects of cooperation on countering terrorism, part of that cooperation has to be intelligence sharing between the 2 intelligence agencies, Pakistan's and India's.
Last question there. One more after this, okay, I promised.
Thank you. My name is Yusuf Chaudhary, representing Korean Media in Pakistan. given the current alignment in Asia, we know next war between the two countries is going to be stable, high, or can
I think that it's important for us to establish peace in the region. I don't think it's much of a stretch of the imagination to envision a scenario where other countries, where other powers are drawn into a conflict between India and Pakistan. That's why it's so important for us to begin this dialogue and work towards our own peace.
Yes, Madam, last question.
Thank you. Let me ask you for Jazeera.
Al Jazeera.
You praised President Trump for his role in avoiding the full-scale war between India and Pakistan, and his role in trying to reach peace between Russia and Ukraine in Israel as well. So have you discussed with the administration, the government, situation in Gaza, specifically the humanitarian situation in Gaza?
So we absolutely certainly welcome President Trump's desire for peace. We know that he campaigned on peace, that the mandate he has, the electoral mandate he has, which is a significant electoral mandate by the people of America, is an anti-war mandate. And he's using that lens to view various conflicts around the world, particularly in the India-Pakistan context. Of course, we're grateful for President Trump, for his entire administration, for working so hard to helping us achieve the first step, which is this ceasefire. And we're looking forward to the international community, including the United States, playing their role to build on the momentum of this ceasefire and take us towards a dialogue and diplomacy with India. The question of Gaza and Palestine is concerned. Just yesterday, Pakistan is at the moment a non-elected member of the UN Security Council. The group of the E10, the elected members of the UN Security Council, tried to pass a resolution on Palestine, calling for an immediate ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire, aid, etc. Unfortunately, that was vetoed by the United States, but we'll continue advocating on that front.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us.